Hi, I'm Mrs McTaggart and welcome to this video today on factors and highest common factor. Prior knowledge before watching this video is you should be familiar with the times tables. The better you are at them, the easier this will be. Hopefully you've already had a lesson on multiples and you should be good at dividing. So the reason I mention multiples is pupils always get multiples and factors a wee bit muddled up, so be careful. So our lesson intention is to be able to identify what factors of a given number are. So I'm going to maybe ask you for factors of 12. And then we need to be able to identify the highest common factor of a pair of numbers. So whereas in multiples we look for the lowest common multiple, in factors we look for the highest common factor. So let's decide what is a factor. A factor is a number that divides exactly into a given value. So factors of 10 are all the numbers that 10 divides really nicely by. So 10 divides by 10 and 1. So it divides by 10 and 1. What else does 10 divide by? It divides by 2 and 5. And that's it there. Now, did you see how I did that? I did it in pairs. So the factors of any number will always include 1 in itself, and then they usually come in pairs. Now, I say usually because there are a few exceptions, which we'll see in my examples. Now, you don't have to write these out in order. You can do it like I've done there, 10 and 1, 2 and 5. Because that's an easy way to get them all. Or similarly, some people like to write them out like this and go, right, okay, so we know that 1, that's the wrong pen. So we know that 1 and 10 are factors, and then 2 and 5 are factors, and then they kind of make this wee rainbow shape, or a wee smiley face underneath, and pair them all up. So I don't care if they're in order, I don't care if you do them in pairs, as long as we get them all. So let's have a look at some examples. So question 1, let's write down all the factors of 12. So all the numbers that 12 divides by. Now, everything divides by itself in 1, so that's always my starting point. So we're going to say 1 and 12. What else does it divide by? Well, it's even, so it definitely divides by 2. 2 and what make 12? 2 and 6 make 12. What else goes into 12? Well, it divides by 4 and 3. So 3 and 4. So that's them if you wanted them in order. Notice 3 times 4, 2 times 6, 1 times 12. Or remember, it's perfectly okay to write them as 1 and 12, 2 and 3, 4 and 6, as long as we've not missed any. Okay, so if it asked you how many factors does 12 have, you would say that 12 has, now we wrote down 6 numbers there, so 12 has 6 factors. So there are 6 numbers that 12 can divide beautifully by. Question 2, write down the factors of 36. There's a lot more here. So if we're going to do it in pairs, let's go with 1 and 36. What else goes into 36? Well, it's definitely even, so it divides by 2. Now, if you've identified divides by 2, get that other number because that'll go missing because you won't be really aware that that's actually in your 18 times table because we don't learn that. But if you've said it divides by 2, 2 times what is 36? Make sure you get that number in. So 2 and 18. It also divides by 3. 3 times 12 makes 36. Is there any more? There is. 4 goes into 36. So 4 times 9. And is there any more? Have I missed anything? Is there another number that 36 divides by? 6 times 6 is 36. But because that's 6 times 6, I don't write down it twice. I don't write down 6 twice, I just write it once. Now if I put these in order now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18 and 36. And if I just show you the pairs, so we've got 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9. There's no wee pair to go with the 6. So remember what I said in my earlier slide, usually they come in pairs. Now the reason that this one doesn't have an even amount of factors, so if you look at it, 36 has 9 factors. So that's an odd number. And the types of numbers that will have odd factors are numbers like 36, 49, 64, 81, 100. What's special about all these numbers? They are your square numbers. So because this is a square number, that has an odd amount of factors, and they're the only ones that will not come in pairs, okay? Question 3, let's write down the factors of 19. Is 19 in any of our times tables? It's not, isn't it? It's not. So a lot of people sometimes think there's no factors, but remember what I said right at the beginning. Every number has 2 factors. Well, except one, but you'll discuss that in another lesson. Factors of 19 are 1 and 19. Every single number divides by 1 in itself. So 19 only has 2 factors. And there's a very special name given to that number. Any ideas? Has anyone heard it before? You might have. So a number that only has 2 factors, being itself and 1, is called a something number. With 5 letters. It begins with a P. It ends in an E. It rhymes with lime. It's prime. Okay, now that will be discussed in another lesson. So numbers that only have 2 factors are called prime numbers. Question 4. Right, we're going to write down the factors of 12 and 20. Now we already did the factors of 12 in a previous slide. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. So that was the factors of 12. What are the factors of 20? So what are all the numbers that 20 divides nicely by? Well, there's 1 and there's 20. There's 2 because it divides by 2. 2 times what is 20? That's right, it's 10. And then there's one more wee pair and your 5 times table. So they are the factors of 20. Right, is there any in common there? Is there any that appeared in both lists? There was quite a few. Number 1 appeared in both. Number 2 appeared in both. Number 4 appeared in both. So they are all what's called common factors. So common factors of 12 and 20 are numbers that they both divide by. But what is the highest one? Right? So when we talk about factors, we want the highest one they've got in common. And it's a bit like when you've been taught to simplify fractions. If I asked you to simplify the fraction 12 and 20, and you look at it and you go, well, both of them divide by 2 and both of them divide by 4. Which one has your teacher told you to use? They've probably always told you to use the biggest number they both divide by. They've maybe not used the word factors before. So you would use 4, because that would get you to the answer quicker. You would divide them both by 4. So when it comes to factors, we want the highest common factor. So 4 is the highest common factor. Of 12 and 20. Okay, and there are other topics, there's lots of algebra topics coming your way that will ask you to be really good at identifying this. Because if you say 2 is the highest common factor, you're not right. It is a common factor, but it's not the highest one. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on now for other examples. So question 5, what is the highest common factor of 25 and 30? So let's write out the factors of 25. So the factors of 25 are 1 and 25. And then it's just 5. So that's the factors of 25. I didn't really need to space it out as much as that. Factors of 30, well, it divides by 1 and 30. 2 and 15. It also divides by 3. 3 times 10. Anything else that goes into 30? Oh, 5. 5 times 6. So they are all the factors of 30. So what have they got in common here? Well, everything always divides by 1, so that will always be a common factor. The only other number there is that goes into both of them is 5. So we can say the highest common factor, and I'm going to shorten it to HCF. So the highest common factor is 5. That is the biggest number they both divide by. Okay? So here's some for you to try yourself. Question 1 is just writing down the factors. Remember all the numbers they divide by. Okay? And question 2 is then doing what I was doing there and asking you to write the highest common factor. So question 2, you might have to write them all out first of all, and then see what's in common like I did in my examples. But if you're really good at your tables, you'll look at 10 and 16 and just know what the biggest number they both divide by. Okay? So Pause and try these and then unpause and check your answers. There are your answers there. And I'm sorry they're a wee bit squished in for the question 1, but hopefully you got on okay. And I put them all in order for you as well. But remember, when you're doing your answers, it doesn't matter if they're in order or in pairs. So what have you learned today? Well, we've learned the definition of a factor. So factors of a number are all the numbers it divides really nicely by. It's a number that goes into something perfectly. Okay? We've learned how to find the factors of a given number, and it's just by writing a big list. And we've remembered that they always come in pairs unless it's a special square number. And then we've learned how to find the highest common factor. So it's your choice. Do you write out a big list? Or do you just know your tables well enough to just spot it like that, like when you were simplifying fractions? And further steps from this, when you'll see factors, we'll see factors when you're doing fractions, simplifying them. You'll see fractions when you're doing some algebra topics. In fact, there's a whole topic coming your way at National 5 one day, maybe called factorising. And that's something fun to look out for. Thanks for watching.